Our next presentation is from Matt Iuliano, who is Executive Vice President and Executive Director of the Jockey Club. He's going to talk about the reformed racing medication rules that have been proposed by the Jockey Club. Matt?
Thank you, Ed. And I'm honored to address now this fourth meeting of the Welfare and Safety of the Racehorse Summit held here at Churchill Downs at Keeneland. And I want to thank Bill and his staff who share their commitment to continually enhance the safety record of the horse. It's a commitment that our two firms have jointly pursued for several years, and we certainly appreciate his continued support. Thank you, Bill. In early spring of 2011, we commissioned the noted consulting firm McKinsey & Company to study horse racing and recommend strategies to reverse the long-term declines seen at that time in virtually all segments of our industry. Declines that, if allowed to continue, would result in a market estimated to be roughly two-thirds what we would have today. And as we unpack these numbers, among the 5 factors as contributing to the market contraction that we found particularly disturbing was the negative perception held by fans and non-fans alike towards our sport. In survey after survey by leading polling organizations from 2008 all the way up through and including last summer, the message from our existing and prospective customers has remained very consistent. Healthy athletes, fit for competition, on a fair and level playing field, were fundamental to their continued or expanded participation in our sport. And notably, all other efforts directed at positioning the racing product for sustaining growth are secondary, until we reverse the public's negative perception that is being held towards the sport. A negative perception that is not aided by the story that's told here. By reviewing the medication rules and with the assistance of resources available online at rmtcnet.com, this graphic captures the various regulatory approaches in place for some of the more frequently used therapeutic medications used in racing. In a system where the rules and withdrawal recommendations vary by jurisdiction, our owners and trainers who race in multiple jurisdictions and the customers who follow them are understandably quite confused. The picture is further complicated when rulings issued by the regulatory authorities are similarly surveyed at thoroughbredrulings.com. This was a joint effort between RCI and the Jockey Club, designed to deliver full-text rulings, information to a growing segment of the market who desire greater transparency into our sport. When rulings were placed into broad categories, according to the nature of the drug or medication involved, the non-steroidal anti-inflammatories comprised about 2/3 of the nearly 3,500 drug-related rulings. They also led in another category, the chances that a single violation will eventually lead to a second, and the chances that that second violation would lead to a third, and so on. During the 7-year period studied between the 2005 and 2011 timeframe, 1 out of every 2.1 individuals with at least 1 positive had in fact at least 2 positives for non-steroidal anti-inflammatories. 1 in 4 had at least 3, 1 in 7 had at least 4, all the way up to 1 individual who had 11 regulatory rulings in this period of time. Now keep in mind that this only represents 15% of the 12,801 trainers that were licensed at that period of time, and they were also the subject of a drug violation. And when you ignore those with 3 or fewer rulings spread over the 7-year period of the study, really only about 200 remain. And it was at this analytical grounding that we undertook to develop the template for a uniform national medication rulebook a little over a year ago, and with the help of several of you in this room today. The objectives for this exercise was really quite simple. First of all, we wanted to leverage the best components from existing rules, and relying upon our advisors, we undertook to develop a new paradigm for medication rules which would feature a simplified drug classification system of controlled therapeutics with everything else across the board rendered ineligible. Clear regulatory thresholds and guidance for administration and withdrawal to assist trainers in minimizing accidental misadministrations of medications too close to the time of the post. And leveraging the great work of Alan Foreman and his team of advisors, including Ed Martin and Dr. Sam, Stanley, David, Yubo, Soma, Malin, and Tom Broken, to not only define the list of controlled therapeutics, but also to begin to create the linkages that exist between a violation and a penalty through a very innovative system based upon cumulative points that will effectively shuttle persistent offenders far from the sport and eliminate them permanently from the game. Also, industry best practices to improve the security of in-today horses, and an annual review process of the rules and the results of those regulatory rulings on an annual audit basis to ensure that those rules are meeting the objectives measured against actual regulatory data. And finally, strict standards and requirements where only laboratories accredited to the heightened standards of the RMTC and fully participating in a quality assurance program are permitted to test samples. And we are thankful for these organizations who have endorsed the reform rules by name and those organizations that have endorsed them by intent. And we continue to actively seek the endorsement of other industry-leading organizations that share a common goal: to create a national rulebook to guide in the management of our athletes and to maximize their health, safety, and welfare on the racetrack, as well as to swiftly prosecute those who violate the rules in a consistent and a meaningful way across all jurisdictions. We are committed to continually enhance the perception of our sport and the safety of our athletes, and to restore our customers' confidence in our game. And we would encourage each of you to please join us in this endeavor. Thank you.